Good day, my name is John DeToy. I major in English and learner support that focuses in special needs education. My student number is 50324683, and today we will be discussing how language correlates to the 4 language skills and how it helps to be able to do the CAPS assessments.
Greetings to you all. I am Lehlonolo Precious Tubejani, majoring in English, Business Studies, and Economic Management Sciences for Education. My student number is 50305697.
So the first language skill that we will be discussing is the language skill that is listening. Some assessments from the CAPS document that we will be discussing under this language skill is the listening test. So for our visual aid, we have the red brick, and this represents the assessment that is the listening test. So in a classroom, it is essential to have effective listening within your learners in the sense of discipline. Because if your class is not disciplined and they do not listen to you, effective learning will not take place. Now, in the sense of English, we teach poetry and we teach literature. Students listen while you explain and read the literature and poetry. Then they find correlations from the text and in reality. And then they form a connection to their own life. And then this connection helps store the content that you just taught in their long-term memory. So the listening test forces students to pay attention to the text that you are reading out loud, and it forces them to rely on their memory instead of having the visual text to fall back on.
Our second language skill will be reading and viewing. The type of assessments that are stipulated in our CAPS document is comprehension test and visual literacy. Learners must be able to understand what's being asked in a question. They must be able to distinguish which knowledge is relevant to the question asked. Being able to analyze something to form their own interpretation and individual thought and opinions.
So our third language skill that we will be discussing is the speaking language skill. And from the assessments from the CAPS document, we will be looking at prepared speech, prepared reading, unprepared speech, and unprepared reading. The orange block represents those assessments. Now, teaching these 4 assessments and the skill of speaking helps the learners to gain confidence in public speaking. It helps them with their voice projection, their tone of voice, their pronunciation of words and phrases, and when planning a prepared speech or prepared reading, it helps them do research and to structure what they're going to say in front of people. And public speaking is essential outside of the classroom in the workplace one day, once they finish matric. With the unprepared speech and the unprepared reading, it forces learners to be adaptive when it comes to speaking in front of people, because all of a sudden they, without planning, need to address a classroom full of people, and this is how it's going to be in the real life. So this is why speaking is essential.
Our fourth and final language skill is writing and presenting. The assessments that are stipulated in the CAPS documents are creative writing and the examination. Learners must be able to formulate their own imagination into words. They need to be innovative and think out of the box. They must be able to structure a story. Crafting and answering in the examination room. That does not only require the answering of the questions, but shows the critical thinking and individual thoughts.
So all of these bricks we've already discussed, each of them represents a different type of assessment in the CAPS document. Now, when you teach a lesson, you can relate each color to a different emotion or different experience, but for this assignment, we did not associate colors with anything because we want the learners to associate the colors and the assessments on their own and make their own correlations. So, the yellow brick, or the gold brick, represents passing the subject, thinking critically, having the ability of individual thought, and showing that cognitive development did take place. And most importantly, in the real world, outside of the workplace, after school, these skills will help learners to navigate the trials and tribulations outside of the classroom. Thank you very much.